Welcome to this Plastic Whale Heritage event. We're out here today cleaning up plastic on the coast outside of Bergen, and today is a very special day. Why is that, Ruben?
Today it's 5 years since the more or less famous plastic whale died from eating more than 30 plastic bags. It was washed on shore just north of us now, and we are here to contribute to keeping the movement it created alive, because this problem is so serious that we need all focus on it for years. We will be cleaning plastic and dealing with this problem for decades. So we need to keep pushing.
And as you can see behind us, we still have a lot of plastic to clean up before we are done with this problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we will handle this problem for decades, but as we can see, it gets cleaner, it gets better, and each time we are out, each time we pick something up, it's away. It doesn't get eaten by a whale. So we will solve this, but it will take a lot of time.
And we need to do that for hours again, and you have the feeling that it is not clean.
This is not going to stop now. This is a revolution. A big revolution, and it will never stop. It will grow each day. It will grow. There is plastic everywhere. Everywhere. So good to see you, man. Each day it will grow.
So it's been 5 years since this whale died from eating all this plastic. And what has happened in these 5 years? What's the most important things, do you think?
Basically, I think the most important thing, there has happened a lot, but the most important thing is that the problem has been accepted both by the public and by the politicians. And that's when you can start to come with the solutions.
Yeah.
So we are already in the solution part of the problem,
Yeah, exactly.
which is kind of unique in an environmental perspective, because usually it takes like 15 to 20 years to get the problem accepted. This is already accepted by everyone.
Yeah.
And we have sort of started to find the good solutions.
Yeah, and that's why our alliance here in Western Norway is called the Plastic Whale Heritage, because this whale was so important to kind of wake people up to the significance and how serious this problem has become.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to have died in vain. So
Definitely not.
so kind of our purpose is we have to keep this commitment alive that this whale awoke. So this is a global problem, and we have to find solutions all over the world. And there's a lot of different people and NGOs like us, researchers, institutes who are working on solutions. So now we are going to hear from some of them.
Hi everyone, my name is Tim and I am EU advisor at Innovation Norway. And for those of you who don't know, Innovation Norway is the Norwegian government's most important instrument when it comes to innovation and development of Norwegian enterprises and industry. So on one hand, we as an organization give both financial and network and competence support to Norwegian entities. And on the other hand, we are trying to be one way in for as well foreign entities to either establish themselves in Norway or to find Norwegian partners. I was invited here today to talk briefly about the EU missions, and I think you all agree with me when I say a healthy blue planet is crucial for our future. Our ocean and waters are public goods, and we are all responsible to protect and to take care of it. So this requires changing of our perspectives and being aware that our oceans and waters have unique value. And in my opinion, in that way, we have to look different at the problem solution fit. So EU's missions are a new way to bring concrete solutions to one or some of our greatest challenges we are facing. They have ambitious goals and deliver concrete results by 2030. So EU's missions can be seen as moonshot projects, as I call them here, and there are currently 5 of them. We have climate adaptation, 100 climate neutral cities, healthy soil, cancer, and then of course this topic, the restore of and health of our ocean and waters. So we humankind, we have to solve these problems. And with the moonshot approach done similar by the NASA in 1957, the EU's new way of thinking will use this kind of approach, which led the first man to the moon. So in my opinion, in addition, it can be said that the European Green Deal, everything was just happening right now, and which should suppose to transform us to a more green and sustainable future, can't happen without the blue. So we have to make really the concrete solutions here for the oceans. And the objective of this mission is to restore the health of our ocean and waters by 2030. And the mission has 5 main objectives, so to say, which are framed around the metaphor of a starfish. And the starfish was chosen because it's something easily recognizable and all the 5 legs are connected. And this is the main idea of missions as well. Everything should be connected. And as you can see here, we have the regeneration of ecosystems, we have the zero pollution, blue economy, decarbonization, and really important in this case here too, the knowledge of ocean literate societies and governance. So you all know that there's still a lot of unknown when it comes to the ocean. And for example, when it comes to microplastic and the interaction with the marine ecosystems. This mission will be about filling these knowledge gaps. So key for all missions will then as well be involvement of the citizens. So with that, the missions will propose new governance models and build partnerships with governance, businesses, universities, civil society, of course, and others towards these common goals. In the first deployment phase and piloting phase, as called, until 2025, the missions roll out lighthouses in major European sea and river basins. So they're called then mission sites. And I will show you some here. In this overview, you see that lighthouses will most likely then act as hubs and platforms for development and demonstration and deployment of these innovations in all form in order to reach these specific objects we have in this mission. And they are hubs which will support several EU strategies and will show that activities can be scaled and implemented in other geographical regions as well. So what's happening then in the North and Baltic Sea should be then implemented as well in the Mediterranean and vice versa. I will show you here now a little bit more about the 4 lighthouses. You see, you have the Danube River, we have the Atlantic and Arctic coast, Baltic and North Sea, and we have the Mediterranean. And all of them, they have different kind of focus on what they're focusing on. And all member states and associated countries will be involved in these lighthouses. So international cooperation is crucial here. And we see already that Norwegian actors are strengthening their contacts towards international contacts and players in order to get into consortia. And especially for the Mediterranean lighthouse on plastic pollution, we have some interest from the Norwegian industry and institutions here. And this is a call I mean here. You can look at it later on. And I would all like to invite you to, if you want to work together with Norwegian companies, please take contact with me or some of my colleagues, or either take contact directly with your Norwegian partner in order to establish how far you can go together on this mission. At last, a personal note for myself. Keep up the good work, everyone. The whale stranded in 2017 on the island of Sotra, just outside my window here, was something that has shaken the society up. But I believe we, as society, need to be even more shaken. So keep up the good work and affect citizens, authorities, and the economy wherever you can. Thank you.
My name is Eirik Lindebjerg, and I'm the plastics lead of WWF Norway. The plastic whale outside Bergen marks really the start of something that is becoming and has become a global movement to stop plastic pollution. The whale created a lot of attention in Norway and abroad, and we've seen similar instances all over the world. This big attention in Norway also led the Norwegian government to propose marine plastic pollution as an agenda item for the UN Environment Assembly. And that whole process led to a growing movement of civil society organizations, businesses, individuals, citizens who are now demanding a new treaty to stop plastic pollution. And actually, in just about a month, end of April, beginning of March, the UN Environment Assembly will meet again and is likely to decide on a negotiation mandate to start the process for setting in place such a treaty. We've seen over 700 NGOs have called for this, over 100 companies, and over 2 million citizens. And a plastic pollution treaty is really necessary because plastic pollution is a global problem. It is polluting our oceans. It is being transported by air in the atmosphere. Plastic products are being sold all over the planet and not being recycled. This strong movement of citizens and NGOs and businesses have now led to almost all countries in the world, more than 150 countries, having said and agreed to and accepted to start negotiations of such a new treaty. The next couple of years, now starting from that moment in end of February, will be really decisive of if that treaty will be a success. So we in WWF encourage everyone to get engaged in that negotiation process that will likely be happening over the next 2 years, so that we can get an as ambitious, as strong treaty as possible. We in WWF Norway also had the great pleasure to experience the interest in the Norwegian public around plastic pollution when we in 2020 organized the National Norwegian Telethon, TV Action, together with the Norwegian Broadcasting Association. There we saw this really profound interest and could really experience how ordinary people all over the country got engaged to collect money to solve the plastic pollution problem. An ocean of opportunities was the slogan of that campaign, and it gathered 240 million Norwegian kroner over a one-day TV event. It was really heartening to see the big engagement, and in particular, since this was happening in the middle of the COVID pandemic and the traditional way of fundraising was not possible, still the whole campaign managed to collect such a significant amount, and that was largely due to the great engagement that exists in the Norwegian public today. So now it is our great responsibility in WWF to manage that funding collected by the Norwegian public, and we have really started on that journey. The funding collected from this event is supporting action in 9 cities in Southeast Asia, in Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. It is supporting the regional Plastic Smart Cities initiative of WWF. And that again is part of the global No Plastic in Nature initiative of the whole organization. So it is my colleagues, fellow colleagues in these countries who are now really implementing and planning these projects that receive the funding from the Norwegian people. 2021 has been, of course, a challenging year with many of these countries being in lockdown, but also a very interesting year for us as we have mapped and done baseline studies in all of these 9 cities. We have created the data and knowledge necessary in order to be able to spend the funding provided from the Norwegian public in the best way possible. Now we are running over into the implementation phase, and this is really an interesting phase for us, and this is really when we get down into the project and will start developing those innovative solutions, develop waste management activities, get cities, NGOs, local organizations and communities to stop plastic pollution at the local level. And our ambition is that these local projects, then funded by the Norwegian public, will be pilot projects that will inspire change way beyond the projects themselves and way beyond these 9 focus cities. Our goal is to directly impact 900,000 people and improve waste management facilities for them. But our long-term ambition is to create solutions that can help globally in stopping plastic pollution. All of that coming out indirectly and directly from a plastic whale stranded on an island outside Bergen. Thank you so much. This was Eirik from WWF.
Hi, my name is Mari Kristin Martinsen, and I work as an advisor on environment and society in the Norwegian Retailers Environment Fund. I've been asked to present some of our international projects at this conference. Firstly, our objective is to prevent plastic pollution and clean up and handle plastic waste in countries with major plastic pollution challenges and limited resources to solve these issues. Secondly, giving you a geographical overview of where the projects we have supported are located, the majority being in Africa and Asia, with some projects also in the Caribbean and in Europe. Our first international call for project was in October 2019. And the first project started up in March 2020. And despite COVID-19, most of our projects have been running, but there have, of course, been delays, which we anticipated. And I've been asked to present a few projects for you, which I will do now, that are currently ongoing around the world. The first project here was funded in 2021, so last year, and the organization is River Cleanup, a Belgian NGO. They have installed trash booms in the Citarum River in Indonesia. This river is infamous for its plastic pollution. And a trash boom is a barrier that stops the plastic from traveling further downstream, and it is a low-tech solution where they have to physically remove the piled up plastics by hand in nets, as you see in this picture. And this project is both scalable and possibly also a transferable project to other parts of Asia and rivers, which is a key aspect we are looking for in our international projects. The second project was funded in 2022, so quite recently. And the organization is a Dutch business developing practical solutions. They are creating a bottle deposit scheme for PET bottles in several cities in Morocco. And they incentivize returns of bottles by giving discounts in store. And this picture is from the pilot project that was conducted in 2021, where they collected 160,000 plastic bottles in 6 months. And this project is both scalable and it provides infrastructure for proper handling of plastic waste, which is also a key aspect we're looking for in our international projects. The last project I'm going to present was funded in 2020, so in our first call for projects. It is Strømme Foundation, a Norwegian development organization working in Mali, conducting this project. They train unemployed women and youth to collect and prepare plastic waste for recycling. The plastic waste is recycled into new school desks that otherwise would have been made from wood, which is a finite resource. Strømme Foundation has local offices in Mali and local presence, which is also a key aspect we're looking for in our international projects. And that was it from some of our projects around the world. Thank you very much.
In the Northern Hemisphere, the fulmar is the seabird species most affected by plastic pollution when it comes to ingestion of plastic. The northern fulmar is an ospar species used in biomonitoring of plastic pollution in the North Sea. This species is also the only seabird species included in the plastic pollution for the sea when recommended in the AMOP program. The Norwegian Polar Institute has collected plastic information from the fulmar since 1983. In 1983, we saw that some individuals, which was analyzed, they had plastic in stomach. We find only some pieces of plastic when we did this study. In 2013, after observing a lot of plastic on the beaches of Svalbard, we did a new study which was showing us that there was an increase in plastic pollution. We now had 15 pieces of plastic per individual, which was investigated. In 2021, we saw that 95% of all the fulmar studied in our study had plastic in the stomach. It was now 36 plastic pieces per individual, with an average of 0.21 gram per individual. We know that plastic are influencing the fulmars when they are passing 0.1 gram. So now 45% of the fulmars are exceeding this level. We have also done a new study on the chicks of fulmars. And in the chicks, we have seen that most of them have plastic in the stomach. They receive this when the parents are regurgitating the food to them. So when they come to the sea, they have a high amount of plastic. In one chick which we studied, we had 381 pieces of plastic. We also see that plastic are having damage on the tissue of the stomach and also in the intestine of the fulmars. Plastic also causes stomach obstruction and also have toxicological impact on the birds. We have, in recent years, been conducting a lot of studies which is related to additives which are used in plastic production. And because they are eating the plastic, we are very concerned that this may affect both the hormone and the immune system of the birds. So we are now doing a lot of studies which are related to this, trying to see if these additives used in plastic production are affecting the birds. We already see that some of the pollutants, especially endocrine disruptors, are affecting the birds. Thank you.
Hello from Alapul, Scotland. We are the Alapul Sea Savers and this is our marine protected area.
We work to protect our seas and whales like yours.
To protect our seas and our futures, we all need to work together.
And it shouldn't just be kids doing this. Everyone needs to be involved. Governments, businesses, individuals, kids, parents, grandparents, everyone.
Thank you for all you do, everyone, everywhere. Motion leave. Tax can do ha.
Hello, this is Clean Show from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Today we are cleaning the beach at Coco Beach. We are inspired by the plastic whale and we are trying to inspire more people doing cleaning ups all over the world. You are welcome, everybody, to clean our environment.
Wow, thank you very much. You are welcome.
Hi from Paris. I'm Juliette and I've been picking plastic for months near Sutra with the non-profit in the same boat. So Sutra is where the plastic whale has landed, and I've met a lot of people who were inspired by the plastic whale. They started picking plastic and they were really, aware now of the problem of plastic pollution. But the plastic pollution problem goes beyond that, because the plastic breaks down in nanoplastics, and when it does it, it becomes dangerous not only for the whales, but also for us humans.
Usually when we are cleaning up like today, we clean up these big items. And it's pretty obvious why this is a problem, for example. Animals can get stuck in the ropes, birds use them for nesting, and...
Yeah, all of the bigger things, it's obvious. But one of the main reasons we need to focus on picking them up is that when it lies on the beaches and in the nature, it starts breaking down to smaller pieces. And if we see here, I think maybe Marta from Norse is better to explain what we are seeing.
Why is it, because we call it microplastic, right? When it's becoming this small. Why is microplastic a problem?
At this stage, this size, and so much of it, it's absolutely impossible to clean up. So this is going to be left behind. This is going to stay here forever, and it becomes incorporated into the soil. Essentially, it really never goes away. And one of the things about plastic is that it contains a whole multitude of chemicals. They make it with coloring. It's made to be either hard or flexible. It has UV stabilizers and a lot of different chemicals to give all the many different properties of plastic that we know. And when it's in nature and it's exposed to weather, to UV and to fluctuating temperatures over time, these chemicals leak out of the plastic and enter into the environment. So regardless of the plastic, it provides chemicals to the environment. And it keeps leaking, so keeps leaking out these chemicals into to the soil, into the air and into the water. And we know that it enters us. We have several hundred different chemicals in our bodies. Some of them we know are harmful, some of them are heavy metals or hormone mimicking chemicals. A lot of them we don't know what they do. And they can work in combination and create these so-called cocktail effects. So regardless of what we know and what we have proven, it's a good idea to remove this to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see these overviews of how long it takes to break down plastic. But what do we really know about because now we know we have microplastics and we even have nanoplastics that we can't even see with our naked eye. Yeah. So what do we know about that? Does it go away? How long does it take?
Yeah, there is no one answer to how long does it take to break down plastic. There are many different types of plastic. And we know that it's a very slow process if it's going to be degraded and so-called composted or biodegraded by bacteria or fungi. It takes a lot of time. We cannot rely on bacteria and fungi to clean up all of this. Perhaps they can remove some of it, but that's not the way to go. If you think about it, we have remains of wood, the Viking ships, that have stayed intact for 1,000 years, and plastic is made to last. It's not essentially degradable. So it's going to be around forever.
But a lot of the microplastic is like we talked about. It's this stuff.
The bigger stuff breaking down.
Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to the direct sources of microplastics, what is the most important sources? Or where does it come from? Like, how does it end up here?
Yeah, as we know, plastic is man-made, and most of the plastic we use is also used by humans and in the cities, and in the not mainly the marine environment, also fisheries as well. But so it's important to remember to handle your plastic the correct way, because it will end up here, and it will break down, and it will be a problem as essentially forever.
And you are sitting on one of our least favorite types of plastic.
Definitely.
Yeah. Why, Ruben, is this so problematic?
It's quite easy to show because it's leaking all the time, small pieces, and this is 2% plastic and it's 98% air.
Yeah.
And that makes when it starts to break down, it goes really fast into the smallest pieces, and you can't pick it up. It's everywhere. It's floating, and it's just totally out of control. Yeah. And it's one of the items that's really it's really easy to change it. Yeah. You can use something else. Absolutely. We don't need styrofoam for like 80% of what it's used for today. We can change it with something else. Cardboard, by example.
And styrofoam is something we really find everywhere, either as big pieces or tiny pieces, both in weight and numbers. Styrofoam is really one of the worst.
Yeah,
kinds.
definitely.
But Darren, you work with the urban microplastics, and so do you see any of do we see the same things here as in the city? Does it just spread out, or is it different?
Yeah, and a problem with microplastics is so hard to identify the sources. You can see here it could be anything. Yeah, it could be from a fishing boat or a normal boat, or it could come from the cities.
Children's toys or anything.
It's essentially impossible to decide where it comes from or identify.
Okay, we're actually going to hear more about Darren's research now.
Yeah.
Tara, you've been working on this great project together with your colleagues in Norse. The project is called Urban Microplastics, and you're monitoring the spreading of microplastic from the urban city of Bergen to the environment. Are there any results in particular that you found especially fascinating?
Yeah, as you say, it's a big project, and we've been looking into a lot of different urban areas.
and we find a lot of interesting results. Among them, the results that we found in the sand traps were very interesting.
Could you say something about what the sand trap actually is?
Yeah, you see this manhole cover here. Beneath it is a container that traps sand and other things heavier than water and stops it from continuing to the cleaning facilities or to the ocean. And what we see in our results is that the sand in these traps contain a lot of microplastics, and especially heavy microplastic dominated by car tire particles. We also find like painting flakes from buildings and other kinds of plastic. And when we find more heavy plastic than lighter plastic, it's a possibility that the light plastic escapes the sand traps and is then released directly to the ocean.
This is actually really important information for us working in the municipality as well, because the city of Bergen has a lot of these sand traps, and they actually work as small-scale treatment plants, and we need to know how often we should empty them for them to work optimally, and also what we could do to prevent them from being filled up with plastic particles. So what would be your best advice when it comes to that matter?
Yeah, that's a hard question, of course. But our results indicate that a lot of the microplastics ending up in the sand traps comes from the roadsides. So by cleaning or sweeping particular streets more often, we can presumably reduce the spread of microplastics by quite a lot. In addition, it's important to remember that most microplastic have been larger plastic items at some point, and much of it actually comes from littering, which we also find in our results. Luckily, our viewers today are too smart to litter.
Absolutely. I think they prefer to go swimming in cleaner bathing water. Just like us, right?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Okay.
My name is Jutta Dierkes, and I'm a professor in clinical nutrition, and we are investigating the health effects of microplastic particles in humans. If you look at microplastic particles, then we see that we are exposed to many different particles, both by air and by diet. And what you see is that the typical range of size for microplastics and also for nanoplastics, there we also have different other particles, which can be either found in nature or are also regarded as contaminants. For example, you see the human macrophage that is typically in the size of smaller microplastic particles, but you see also, for example, asbestos or microdust that is more in the range of very small microplastic particles or nanoplastic particles. So there's a lot of contamination or a lot of different particles that we ingest or inhale. And that also shows already the different routes where we can get microplastic in the human body. So we can either inhale it and then we find the microplastics or the nanoplastics in the lung, or we can have a so-called dermal exposure via the skin, or we can ingest microplastics. And that is something that we are most interested in as nutritionists, that we look on the microplastic intake via food or drinks. And how do we get then microplastic particles? Well, the main source, the sources of microplastics in the human diet are either from food packaging, so that we have so many foods nowadays that are packed in plastic packs. And one of them I would like to highlight, and this is bottled water and other drinks that are in plastic bottles. And then, of course, we have contaminated food, where the microplastic is present in food. And then the best investigated food is actually seafood. But microplastic have also been found on meat, salt, and honey, or in other food sources. So what happens then if we are going on, if we are looking on ingested microplastics? Fortunately, our gut is a barrier to not only to microplastic, but also to other bacteria and other parts of the diet that we don't want to absorb. Absorption is happening usually in the enterocytes that you see on the picture here, and the enterocytes are protected by mucus, and the mucus itself is produced by the goblet cells. However, we have other more specialized types of cells. For example, the M cells that you see on the picture in the middle. And these are probably the cells where microplastics are ingested. And this we call the so-called transcellular transport. But we also have paracellular transport via so-called tight junctions. And tight junctions are spaces between different cells that are closed by different proteins, so that they prevent any unwanted uptake here. So, fortunately, our gut is a barrier to these microplastic particles, and we actually are now investigating how much microplastics are we actually consuming with diet or drinks. And therefore, we are analyzing human feces. And so feces, if appropriately sampled, contain microplastics. We know now this from different investigations, but they must be from the diet, because what other source should be then for the microplastic in feces. However, the analysis of feces is challenging and very cumbersome. I have put here a flow chart on the sample preparation. So the fecal samples must be digested, and not only with one type of digestion. So there's a digestion by acids, by bases, and also by enzymes, all interfered with or interrupted by filtering processes. And then the remaining sample is analyzed by either pyrolysis or spectroscopy. So this is quite cumbersome and takes really a lot of time. We have now developed a protocol for rat feces from our rat studies that we have done before. And we are now working on human feces. So there are differences between rat feces and human feces. So that doesn't allow to use the same protocol. The next question would then actually be, so if there are microplastics in the human feces or in the gut from diet, and this has been also shown by other groups, so can they translocate to other organs? And indeed, microplastics have also been found in human organs. And of course, we don't know, is it only by ingested microplastics or also by inhaled microplastics? And much likely, the uptake is dependent on particle size, and the smallest sizes are more easy taken up. But the difficulty here is also that the smallest sizes are also the most difficult to measure. So we need more research to investigate both the sources of microplastic in food and drinks and other sources, the routes of exposure, the inhaling and the ingestion of microplastics, and also the translocation of the microplastics to other organs. I would like to thank very much to my collaborators. We have 2 PhD students who are working on the project, Benoit Datoto and Alice Refosco, and also my collaborators at the Institute of Marine Research, Tanja Kögel, and at the Faculty of Science, Anders Goxier, and at the Medical Faculty, Aurora Brønstad and Gülen Arslan-Lee. Thank you for your attention.
Outside this harbour in Hjelmåsvågen lies an estimated amount of 100,000 to 300,000 tire sides. They are a result from a company that used to make blasting mats from old tires. They only used the tread side. The size of the tires was dumped outside the factory each night. The exact amount is unknown, but the estimate is about 3,000 cubic meters. Car tires consist of over 60 different chemical compounds. Rubber is only about 40% of the volume. The rest is a mixture of substances like carbon black, total hydrocarbons, nonylphenols, phthalates, PCB, sulfur, zinc, and a list of other toxics and heavy metals that our society otherwise is trying to get out of the circulation. The tires have been in the sea for over 60 years now and are slowly starting to break down into microplastics and are leaking those chemicals into the water and surroundings. We want to retrieve some of the tires and present them to the mayor of Alver kommune, Sara Sekkingstad, to put the focus on the subject. The administration have known about the case for years, but is hesitant to do anything about it. In the aftermath of the media cover, we get a phone call from Handelens Miljöfond. They are interested in the case and recognize it as a massive source of microplastic in the area. They want to help Alver kommune to clean up the area. We hope that our focus on this case have led to its cleanup. We are not done with Hjelmersvågen and will continue to monitor the progress. Hopefully, we will be able to make an update with underwater picture from a clean Hjelmersvågen.
Hello everyone, it's Lee from Lily's Plastic Pickup, and I'm calling on you as an international community to come together for the Plastic Whale Conference on January 28th, and in memory of the Cooper's whale that unfortunately passed away due to consuming 30 plastic bags. And again, I'm calling on both the international community and on the youth to be, of course, more mindful of nature and just to be more mindful of the world around us. Thank you very much, and have a plastic-free day. See you then!
Hello from Scotland. Just sending a quick message on the anniversary of the plastic whale. It's been a good few years now since the whale appeared and brought the message from the sea that all things were not good. And despite it being a very sad event and a sad message, it has brought a lot of good. And I think that good is that it has brought a lot of people together who all have the same passion and the same drive to help our world become cleaner and safer for everything that lives in it. So I just want to say hello to everybody who I've met through the plastic whale and bring us all together, and to those who I've not met before, hello. And hopefully we can continue to fight together to make things better.
Hi, I'm Mariano from Italy. I'm here close to Portofino, where you can see how gorgeous is our planet and its inhabitants. Here you can watch the whales. I joined the plastic whale cleanup in 2018, and since then I realized the huge issue of overconsumption of plastic and waste. Let's open our eyes and join our forces to stop it as soon as possible. I hope to see you very soon in Norway. Bye!
It's a great pleasure for me to greet the Plastic Whale Heritage Conference in Bergen. Combating plastic litter is one of the most important tasks ahead. It engages people all over Norway, all over Europe, all over the world, and it's really risen the attention of how bad it is that we use so much plastics, single-use plastic and plastic that we throw away and that end up in the ocean and then come into our biosystems and eventually into us via microplastics or in the stomach of whales or fish or whatever. I am now at the Climate and Environment Ministers meeting in France with the European Union. We have had serious discussions about this topic here. And I am also now the president of UNEA, the United Nations Environment Assembly. And in a month's time, we will gather in Nairobi, Kenya for the 5th United Nations Environmental Assembly. And my primary motivation and primary goal for that meeting is that we can formally start negotiations on an international treaty against plastic litter. Plastic litter in the oceans, but also plastic litter in general. We need to reduce the use of plastic. We need to make sure that when we use plastic, we design it for reuse and the circular economy. that we take poisonous materials out of plastic, and more than everything else, that we fetch and collect and recycle the plastic that is already there or yet to be produced. It's a global task, because while we can clean our own shores, plastic will continue to come, because it's a global phenomenon that crosses the global oceans. So we need to work together. That's why we need a strong UN resolution on this. And I'm glad to report that our friends here in Europe are willing to support this. We have support from many countries in the global south. A very good initiative from Peru and Rwanda lies at the bottom of this. And the United States has recently said that they also support such a treaty. So I think we'll be able to start negotiating. But what is really important is the treaty that we end up with is strong enough so that we can really take a grip on this phenomenally big problem. The sooner the better. So with those few words, I wish you a very good conference in Bergen. It's important to work locally, to work globally, but always to think about this as a problem that connects humankind and that can only be solved by humankind. After all, not many generations ago, we didn't have plastic at all. It's a problem that we who are currently alive have created, and I think that it should be we who are currently alive that also solve it. So good luck and have a great conference.
Now we've been on this beach for 3 hours approximately, and things are getting carried off. That's the best proof of like what we're doing is actually helping. This is some of the students who are with us today. Hi. What thoughts do you make up when you contribute to this and see the amounts of trash we actually get?
Well, when you come here, it's very scary because nature is so beautiful, and then you see all this plastic everywhere, and it's just really horrifying because it's such a nice place and it doesn't deserve to be treated like this. But after 3 hours of cleaning up these beaches and, you know, looking at all the progress we've made, it's really just relieving, and it makes you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah. It makes you feel like you're doing something. Yeah. But when you first come here, it doesn't really look like there's a lot of garbage. It just looks like a normal shore. Yeah. But then you start looking and there's garbage everywhere. And it's kind of scary at first, but then you get into it and you feel so good because you know you're doing something.
And do you feel now, after being on the beach and seeing all of the different items, do you think a bit on how this problem is created? Does it have any relevance to your own life?
Well, humans are causing the plastic problem, of course, but I think it's mostly political ignorance and people not taking the problem seriously in the first place. It's not just the day-to-day lives of people, but like, you know, the government needs to do something about making plastic more eco-friendly or less usable.
Also, we have in Norway we have a long coastline, so we're obviously a place where a lot of trash ends up. So we have to keep that in mind when we feel overwhelmed. So just to think about it.
It is a special day today because it's been exactly 5 years since this whale died from eating all those plastic bags. Do you remember when this happened, and do you remember how you felt when this whale was found?
I mean, I had just sort of come to Norway and I had heard about this this whale, and I was very shocked that this could happen because Norway is known to be a very clean country and like very proud of their wildlife. But the fact that they let a whale, you know, suffer like this is horrible. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the news at school, and that I was kind of overwhelmed, and I think it's something that made me realize that I have to do something to stop it, and it's kind of what got me invested in all of this.
That's great. That's really great, because that's exactly what happened to the rest of the world as well, because that whale hit so many people. That's also the main reason we are here today, together with the Plastic Whale Heritage. It's to keep this movement alive.
What do you think of the future? This is, as you've seen today, it's a big problem, and there's a lot of different. It's complex. You know, you have the microplastic, you have the big things. A lot of it comes with the ocean currents, and a lot is just because people are maybe a little careless with how, they treat their things and litter. But are you hopeful for the future, or what do you think?
I'm very hopeful. I think that the new generation of young people are very engaged and really want to do something with the problem. So I have a lot of hope.
I as well am very hopeful because the older generation was careless, but I can see we are living proof that the younger generation cares about the world, and that's what we're doing here.
That's great.
Thank you so much for helping out today.
Thanks for having me here today. My name is Lars Urheim. I'm working for Augury, responsible for research and development. And Augury is a plastic manufacturer, and a very special one, because we work exclusively with plastic from ownerless marine waste. And there's a lot of things individuals and companies can do to solve the plastic problem, mostly related to own consumption and how we deal with our waste. But there is one problem that is particular for only the plastic industry, and that is the problem of plastic granulate, or mermaid tears, as they are also called, that end up in the ocean. And plastic granulate is this, what I have in my jar here. It's small pellets, small balls of plastic, and this is the raw material that the plastic industry uses globally. So more or less anything that is presented as a plastic object will also be made from this in the production process. And as a plastic manufacturer working with ownerless marine plastic, for us it's not acceptable at all to even imagine our raw material ending up astray in nature again. And that's why we've established a pre-project called No More Tears, referring to the mermaid tears that I talked about earlier, that will investigate the value chains of the plastic, the regular value chains and our own, and try to find out how we can stop this problem from happening in the first place. Plastic pellets ending up in the ocean is such a big problem that there is an ongoing international initiative to label this plastic as dangerous goods under transport. Today, it's not labeled as dangerous goods, it's regular, which means that, for instance, a shipping container will be put somewhere on board a container ship, not in a particularly safe spot. And the result we've seen recently, both in Sri Lanka and in the North Sea basin, that containers end up in the ocean and they're opened up, and then all this plastic granulate runs out. And there can be billions of granulate pearls in just one bag of granulate. Problem is that this is similar to food for fish and birds. It's also that they are so small, they already are listed as microplastic. And that also means that it's really difficult to clean it up. So when an accident first has happened, then it's virtually impossible to remove it. 2 years ago, there was an accident outside the coast of Norway where 13 tons of granulate was lost. And one of the biggest cleanup operations relatively was started to and what happened was that 4 tons has been cleaned up out of the initial 13 tons. And that kind of proves how difficult this becomes when granulate ends up in nature. And the only way to solve this is either to stop using plastic granulate or to make a system that stops the leakages if an accident happens, because accidents will happen. And our effort is exactly to do the last thing. We're gonna make sure that if accidents happen in the value chain of our own and hopefully any other plastic manufacturers' value chains, then the granulate does not end up in nature, but is safe in the form that we transport it. What that will be is up to the project and the main project that hopefully follows to decide. But we will put our best effort into solving this problem once and for all, and then stop the problem of plastic granulate ending up in the ocean. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ruben, so it's been 5 years today since the plastic whale kind of woke people up to the problem, and a lot has happened. Yeah. A lot of people have really become committed to solve the plastic problem, but we still have a way to go. And what do you think is the most important things we want to see in the next 5 years?
Well, I think we will need to see a lot of the big things happening, like the big political system change, really. But we also must go like to the smaller things. We must start to change things. Yeah. Like, do we need to make this one in plastic? It has had 3 cookies in each of these apartments, exactly. With another plastic piece on the outside. This could be made of cardboard or anything else. Yeah. But
because it's a little ridiculous that something that maybe lasts for 10 minutes or maybe a little longer if you eat slower.
The container is lasting for 200 years.
Yeah, at least.
And that's like we went to the moon.
Yeah.
And this is the smartest we could come up with.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, we need to start with the small, easy things. We need to change the basics, because everyone can probably agree that we might not need containers that last for several hundred years to keep some cookies.
Yeah, we find a lot of fast food plastic, and we find a lot of like snacks paper that's made in plastic and things like this, which it doesn't have to be made out of plastic. It's really unnecessary.
When it doesn't have to be made in plastic, we shouldn't.
Exactly.
And then we have the bigger things that plastic may be the best way to make a container like this, but we should make systems that makes it easy for it to be
the
recycled
system.
And returned
exactly.
and reused.
Yeah, for drinking bottles we have a good system. We have this return system where you get some money, to a couple of kroners if you return the bottle. Yeah. We should expand that, right?
Definitely.
And maybe also up the price.
Yeah. And it could be expanded to almost anything.
Exactly.
And you could actually have it on plastic in weight also, but I don't know what the best solution is, but we need some system to take care of that.
So we definitely expect the politicians to step up the next 5 years and give us some solutions.
And the most important thing is that the 5 years that has gone has made the boundary for the politicians to actually do this. Because the people will now accept the changes the politicians do.
Absolutely.
5 years ago, when people wasn't on board, they wouldn't stuck up with what the politicians came up with, but now the floor is open.
Yeah, they will accept it.
They can actually start to do some big changes because the people will accept it.
Exactly. So and then of course we have to keep cleaning, because this isn't something that will be. This is not a quick fix. We have to keep cleaning.
No, and we need to keep bringing people to the beach, because people need to see this.
Yeah.
When people see this, that's when they change their mindset, and that's when the politicians can do what the politicians need to do.
So we in the Plastic Whale Heritage, we will keep up the pressure, we will keep cleaning, we will keep pushing for the systematic changes that we need.
Definitely, and we absolutely encourage everyone else to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everyone can actually do a little difference.
So with those words, we say thank you so much for joining us here today.
And keep on cleaning.